Come take a look at Forge World history, the old Resin Thunderhawk. Spiky bits. What's up, hobby maniacs? Rob Baer with you again today. Taking a look at a bit of hobby history, of course. This is the old Resin Thunderhawk. I say old because we know there's a new one on the way. It's not plastic, it's resin. But there is a new resin one on the way that I assume was designed by computers, but you still got this old classic right here that so many hobbyists out there own. And today we're going to take a closer look at the Resin Thunderhawk circa 2003. This particular model right here was painted by Next Level Painting, Kenny Boucher, many moons ago. It's been through a lot. It is magnetized, believe it or not, and we'll show you some of that here in a few minutes when I can get my hands on it and actually get it on the ground. It's attached at its base with a large I think it's 1 inch diameter acrylic rod that goes into some old city fight terrain on a beveled wooden base. I think from Michaels. This was designed by Kenny's brother David, believe it or not, to help support the frame of the Thunderhawk when it is in flight mode. Now that it's on the ground, I can show you some of the great details that were so awesome about this old kit. Now, it did have a flip down front, which was actually glued in place here, but normally this flips down, and it can actually transport dreadnoughts, I believe, from back in the day. They were designed to fit in there. It isn't quite a Stormbird pattern that could fit rhinos inside of it and such, but that was the case there. And if this was left open and not closed up with plastic hard painted, you could see an interior cockpit for some Space Marine pilots, but that one has been fully closed and sealed down. There's also a lot of seats and such in here that you could move. You could open this up and see rows of seats, but that unfortunately has been closed as well. Now, the top piece here, you can switch between the Thunderhawk cannon, which is just pinned in there because it's such a big piece of resin, believe it or not. And between that and a volcano cannon, I believe, which was the case. Oh no, it's a turbo laser back in the day. Whatever, it was a Titan weapon. Either way, it was pretty devastating there, and you can see the landing skids right there, and all of the Hellstrike missiles and the magnetized double twin-linked heavy bolter sponsons on each side of the fuselage, so that's a total of 4 heavy bolter sponsons. Now, these S-foil wings right here actually also move, but they have been glued down as well. On the back here, you can see some really great shading and everything on these thrusters. This is a very large kit. It measures roughly 19 inches long by 17 inches in diameter. Now, I can't tell you what the new one from Forge World is going to be, but I imagine using computers they can make it more concise, more detailed, and a lot cooler looking than the original here that was designed by hand. Fun fact, this is actually the second Thunderhawk. The very first one was a pewter design that came in multiple panels that you had to pin each and every panel in 4 different corners to attach it together. It was much smaller. It was about this big right here. It came in a limited wooden box crate back in the 90s, so this was the early 2000s version of that, and now we have a late teens version that will be coming to stores, I guess at some point, maybe this summer, from Forge World. You can also tell here some of the sizing. This is of course, a Storm Raven from back in the day, but it kind of gives you an idea of the exact sizing of this particular kit right here. Barely comes up to halfway across the fuselage. Now, we know there's going to be a bunch of changes coming with the new resin one that's coming out from Forge World. Most notably is the front sponson system. Now, this one was notorious to breaking. A lot of people complained about it. It looks like there's some intake areas back here in the cut that they just weren't able to get that kind of design, so this is going to be more of a kind of a fin type intake system. Now, the engines look very similar. Judging from the one photo that we've seen at this point, the underneath and the Hellstrike missiles, I believe they are called, all look to be very similar to what they are right now, but I suppose the most iconic identifier of the Thunderhawk itself is this vertical stabilizer here. Looks to be losing these on each side, and it looks to be going more of a front forward kind of design on the resin. Now, it seems like a lot of Forge World fin vertical stabilizers are going kind of forward design, or whatever they call that. I guess it's a front cab, something like that. But I think it looks great. you know, it's if you can get around kind of the tail being completely different. Maybe that was something they did on purpose, maybe it wasn't. But I think that's the most iconic change that a lot of people can tell from the new one to the old one. So let's take a look at their rules and see exactly how good this thing is on the tabletop currently in 7th edition. And here they are right here. So currently, I believe the most recent version of these rules is Imperial Armor Volume 2, 2nd edition, War Machines of the Adeptus Astartes. I believe this came out in 2013, so it's going on 4 years old at this point. It's hard to believe the 7th edition has been around that long, but it has, it's been around for a long time. I don't think this actually was 7th edition. That's actually a very good question now that I think about it. This was 7th edition because it has hull points instead of structure points. So this was 7th edition, I believe, when the book came out. So here it is, 685 points, 12, rear 10, hull points of 9, which would have been 3 structure points back in the day in 6th edition and before. You can switch it out with a turbo laser destroyer like I talked about for 90 points. It can also take cluster bombs. You can do bombing runs when you move over units on the tabletop. It can also take some extra equipment here: flare, chafe launcher, armor cockpit, illumin flares, distinct paint scheme, or markings, which they're pretty good. They don't super help out the Marines. This is all on page 243. And of course, it has the armored ceramite special rule right here. Also, which we know makes you kind of invulnerable against melted. They don't get the extra D6. Now, there's the rules for the Thunderhawk cannon, which it comes stock with, turbo laser destructor, which is very familiar to a lot of people because it is on the Warhound, the Reaver, and indeed, you can take multiples of these on a Warlord Titan. So there's all those rules right there. And of course, the war gear on this is a hull-mounted Thunderhawk cannon. It is fixed forward. 4 sponson-mounted twin-linked heavy bolters, remember 2 on each side of the fuselage, 2 hull-mounted las cannons, those are on the wing tips themselves, 6 Hellstrike missiles, and of course the armored ceramite special rule. It's just a super heavy flyer with hover and transport, which pretty much means that if you're not going fast, you are going to get shot down, which is super kind of frustrating because you spend so much money and spend so much time on this model. Remember, this is a $600 model currently from Forge World. Don't know what the new one's going to be, but that used to be the exchange rate. Now I'm sure it's a little bit less with the whole Brexit thing and all of that, but I haven't run the math on it as of late. But as far as, you know, usability in normal games, normal competitive games, it is a Lord of War, so theoretically you can field it in a normal game of 40k, but it's kind of squishy. Like I said, if you're not flying it around the tabletop, and it isn't exactly the most agile of ships, for sure. Now, it does have a new agile rule, actually, I believe, in the Death from the Skies FAQ. But we're not worried about that right now. We're just trying to show you in general how good it is. And it is indeed not super good, believe it or not, unfortunately, in the actual game. So here's hoping for some better rules for the new Resin goodness that seems to be coming out this summer. It's going to be debuted at Warhammer Fest for the very first time, of course, notwithstanding the pictures that we have seen already. Now, a lot of folks out there are disappointed that it is not going to be a plastic kit, but hey, that's just the way it goes, I suppose. I feel like, you know, something this big in Resin, it is indeed a ginormous hobby project, something that demands a lot of hobby attention and love and time put into it. I would love to see a plastic version at some point, of course. Many people have been asking for that for years and years and years and years, but the reality is we're probably never going to see anything like that, and if we do, it won't be for a while, as they would definitely want to sell out their Resin version, or their newer Resin version that will be coming out here this summer at some point. So that's it for this one. Thanks for checking out our hobby showcase of the old, or soon to be old, Resin Thunderhawk from Forge World. I guess this would be the Mark II version, soon to be Mark III incoming.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.